King Charles isn't easily swayed, and Prince Andrew knows it. That's why body language analysts believe Andrew's recent expressions of guilt are far from sincere. The forced sorrow in his eyes, the perfectly timed horseback photos through Windsor, the slumped posture, they all tell the story of a man performing, not repenting. It's a dangerous play, betting that curated despair will soften his brother or earn back a sliver of royal favor. But the palace isn't buying it, and neither are those watching closely. If you love getting the real story behind the palace walls, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update. Behind the scenes, royal strategy has shifted from quiet tolerance to surgical intervention. Andrew's privileges are vanishing, Sarah's emotions are spiraling, and the royal family is drawing a clear boundary. Protect the crown, not the crumbling figures once tied to it. As the couple becomes more isolated, the stakes rise, not just for them, but for the monarchy itself, which is now gambling that secrecy, silence, and containment can hold back a wave of chaos. There's something especially unsettling about watching a royal implosion unfold in real time, and this one has layers. It's not just scandalous, it's strategic. What's happening with Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson isn't just a public downfall. It's a controlled dismantling. A quiet, clinical response from a monarchy that knows it's sitting on a powder keg. The headlines have shifted, not because the situation is any less severe, but because the royal family has changed tactics. What started as public damage control has turned into covert intervention. Behind the scenes, this isn't about justice or even accountability. It's about containment. It's about managing two unstable, emotionally volatile individuals who are carrying the weight of too many secrets and cracking under pressure. Let's start with Andrew. His reputation never recovered from the Epstein fallout. If you love getting the real story behind the palace walls, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update. No matter how carefully worded the denials, no matter how distant the royal ties became, the public didn't forget. And more importantly, the institution didn't forgive. He was stripped of his military titles. His Her Royal Highness style was pulled. He lost royal protection. That wasn't a disciplinary action. That was a quiet execution of status. Still, he stayed in Royal Lodge, his last stronghold. But that, too, is slipping. The crown wants him out. The king wants him out. And yet, he's still clinging on as if sheer resistance might delay the inevitable. Sources say he's refused to leave. Why? Because Royal Lodge isn't just a residence. It's a symbol. As long as he's there, he still holds onto a shred of royal identity. And just like clockwork, as the pressure intensifies, the performative sorrow begins. We've seen the photographs. Andrew riding through Windsor, head bowed, shoulders slumped. Melancholic, isolated, defeated. But experts aren't buying it. The body language, the staging, the selective visibility, it all points to a deliberate display. This isn't spontaneous grief. This is a performance, and it's aimed squarely at King Charles. Because if Andrew can appear broken enough, repentant enough, there's a chance his brother might soften. Maybe not publicly, but privately. That's the play. Not redemption, not reinstatement, just a reprieve from total exile. But the palace isn't leaning in. They are backing off. This isn't about reconciliation, it's about risk mitigation. And Andrew, despite his efforts, has become an uncontainable risk. The royal family has shifted from controlled defiance to cautious concern. They are not offering support. They are not offering public statements. They are creating distance. Strategically, deliberately. The focus now isn't Andrew's remorse, it's his instability. And that's where Sarah Ferguson comes in. While Andrew is calculated, Sarah is emotional. Where he performs, she unravels. Her behavior in recent months has reportedly triggered internal alarm. Not just sadness, not just stress, but panic, emotional breakdowns, public volatility. Behind closed doors, insiders say her mental state is becoming harder to manage. And in a family where optics are everything, that is dangerous. The fear isn't that Sarah is suffering. The fear is what she might do in response. Because unlike other royal exes, she never truly left. After the divorce, she stayed close, lived in the same home, shared the same resources, continued to orbit Andrew's royal identity like a satellite. But now that orbit is collapsing, and she's spiraling with it. Fergie's connection to Andrew was never just personal. It was practical. They share history, but more importantly, they share information, years of secrets. Conversations never meant for public consumption. If Andrew goes down completely, Sarah's safety net disappears, and that's where behavior becomes unpredictable. The royal family's approach is to sideline her quietly. Don't provoke. Don't engage. Just quietly freeze her out. Because if she feels cornered, if she feels discarded, there's no telling how she might react. The concern is less about damage control now and more about damage prevention. This isn't just a scandal. This is a threat vector. And the truth is, they both know too much. The continued bond between Andrew and Fergie has always raised eyebrows. Divorced but inseparable, living together, appearing at events side by side. But now it's being seen in a new light. Their relationship isn't a quirky royal oddity, it's a survival pact. A mutual protection agreement based on shared vulnerability. It's no longer romantic, it's transactional. And as the walls close in, that alliance becomes a risk in itself. Because shared secrets don't just bind people together, they also trap them. And when one person is drowning, they might just pull the other down with them. The palace knows this. And it's why their handling of Andrew and Fergie has turned cold. It's not cruelty, it's containment. They are being managed, not supported. Monitored, not embraced. And when the palace talks about concern for their well-being, it's not emotional, it's strategic. Because if their instability can be framed as mental fragility, it becomes justification. For further isolation, for removal of remaining privileges, for severing what's left without looking ruthless. This isn't the usual royal protocol. This is modern crisis management. The monarchy has always relied on silence, on tradition, on that infamous mantra, never explain, never complain. But Andrew and Fergie are now forcing the institution into uncharted territory. You can't rely on silence when your risks are loud, emotional, and unpredictable. There's a sense of urgency behind the scenes now. Because if either of them slips, if Andrew goes rogue, if Sarah lashes out, if one of them speaks publicly or reveals something private, the fallout could be catastrophic. This isn't just a matter of embarrassment anymore. It's about institutional integrity, public trust, and the palace is fighting to preserve both. What's truly unsettling is how precarious the situation feels. Every day that Andrew remains at Royal Lodge, every time Sarah makes a public appearance or posts something emotional, the threat of escalation lingers. One headline, one interview, one leak, and the whole thing could unravel. And yet, the palace can't afford to act too aggressively either. Push too hard, and they risk triggering the very behavior they are trying to suppress. It's a tightrope walk between restraint and control. They've opted for subtle containment, silent pressure, financial cutbacks, quiet nudges toward irrelevance. But it's a gamble, because Andrew and Sarah aren't playing by the old rules. They're not going quietly. They're not grateful. They are feeling abandoned, humiliated, targeted. And when people feel like they've lost everything, they stop playing safe. The palace is banking on silence holding. But silence is a breaking point. And if either one of them decides they've had enough, if Andrew abandons a performance and lashes out, if Fergie drops even one explosive truth, then no PR strategy in the world will be able to mop that up. This isn't just about Andrew's past, or Sarah's unraveling. This is about what happens when the royal system starts turning on its own, and when the people it tries to erase start realizing they still have something left to lose. If you've been following this story with your jaw on the floor, like the rest of us, don't forget to like the video, share your take in the comments, and hit subscribe so you don't miss what happens next, because whatever's coming. It's not going to be quiet. The situation surrounding Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson is no longer just a royal scandal. It's a full-blown institutional emergency being smothered under a velvet curtain of silence. And the more the monarchy tries to suffocate the fire, the more it smolders. This isn't about a PR nightmare anymore. This is about control, about secrets, about two people at the edge of collapse, and a royal family quietly preparing for the fallout. Let's not downplay this. Andrew's ties to Jeffrey Epstein were never going to go away. They are a permanent stain, one that can't be repackaged, rebranded, or politely ignored. The Queen tried to keep him afloat during her lifetime, but since her death, King Charles has made it clear there's no path back. Andrew has been cut off from royal duties, stripped of titles, distanced from the firm in every way possible except eviction. Yet, because yes, even that is in motion, Royal Lodge, the 30-room residence Andrew has occupied for over 2 decades, has become the final battlefront. The Crown Estate reportedly wants him out. Charles reportedly wants him out. But Andrew is not moving. He's treating the home like a fortress, because once that door closes behind him, it's over. Without Royal Lodge, he's not just homeless, he's untethered. No role, no title, no residence tied to the crown. Just a man with no official standing, no royal duties, and no way back in. And he knows it, which is exactly why his recent behavior has taken such a bizarre turn. The long face rides around Windsor. The photos where he appears gaunt, lonely, sunken. They are not coincidences. Experts have said it. Insiders have echoed it. These aren't raw glimpses of a broken man. They are curated images. A carefully orchestrated campaign to spark pity. But not from the public. From the monarch. This isn't about winning over media narratives. This is about getting through to Charles. If he can appear broken enough, maybe Charles will blink. Maybe there will be an ounce of familial guilt strong enough to slow down the quiet exile. But the palace sees through it. The public sees through it. And according to sources, even Charles sees through it. The royal family's tone has shifted. The denial is gone. The performative outrage is gone. In its place, cold detachment. They are not reacting because they are not engaging. Andrew is no longer being treated as a senior royal in crisis. He's being treated as a reputational hazard on a leash. And then there's Sarah. Sarah Ferguson has long existed in a strange royal gray zone. Technically divorced, socially adjacent, publicly tolerated. Her post-royal life has been filled with tabloid appearances, odd endorsements, and attempts at reinvention that never quite stuck. But now, with Andrew's fall deepening, Sarah's position is deteriorating fast. Reports say she's not coping well. In fact, she's spiraling. Emotional instability, sudden outbursts, erratic behavior. For someone who's long relied on her proximity to Andrew to stay relevant, the threat of losing him to total disgrace is more than symbolic, it's existential. And that's exactly what makes it dangerous. Because Sarah knows things, just like Andrew knows things. Years of private conversations, royal dynamics, and personal scandals, some of which never made it into the headlines. As Andrew is squeezed out, she's watching her own lifeline unravel. And insiders say that's causing real panic. The royal family is watching her closely, not with concern for her well-being, but with concern for what she might do. Because if she snaps, if she talks, if she posts something careless or gives an off-script interview, it could unravel years of quiet damage control. Their strategy now isn't to rehabilitate Andrew and Sarah, it's to neutralize them, quietly, permanently. And the way they are doing it is ruthless. Financial restrictions, private pressure, total exclusion from public-facing roles, and most notably, a growing narrative that centers on mental health. Sources close to the palace have hinted that concern for Andrew and Sarah's psychological well-being is becoming part of the internal framing. Why? Because once they are categorized as emotionally unstable, it becomes easier to justify cutting them off entirely. It softens a blow. It turns containment into compassion. But let's not pretend this is about care. It's a strategy, one that's being executed with precision. The public hasn't been fooled. The photos, the slouched body language, the curated sorrow, it all rings hollow. Because remorse without accountability isn't remorse. And public sadness without transparency isn't vulnerability, it's manipulation. That's the core of the issue here. The monarchy is stuck between two threats, the public perception of harboring scandal and the private risk of exposure. If Andrew is pushed too far, if Sarah feels discarded, the question is no longer if they'll retaliate, it's how. BP photos, and that's exactly what the royal family is trying to prevent. Because the truth is, these aren't just former royals. They are wild cards. People who have lived inside the system long enough to know where the pressure points are, who the weak links are, what could embarrass the firm if it ever surfaced. The royal family's current posture, strategic silence, non-engagement, covert distancing, isn't passive. It's defensive. Every step is calculated to contain fallout without escalating emotion. But it's a fragile strategy, because it only works if Andrew and Sarah stay in check. And that's the part no one can guarantee. Their relationship, once dismissed as odd but harmless, now looks like mutual blackmail disguised as loyalty. They are bound by history, but more importantly, they are bound by secrets. And that's what terrifies the palace. Because if either one of them breaks, whether out of spite, desperation, or delusion, the result could be catastrophic. And we're already seeing signs of that fracture. Sarah's emotional instability isn't speculation. It's become part of the internal concern. Her behavior, reportedly, has become increasingly erratic. The stress of irrelevance is real. The loss of security is real. And for someone who has been on the fringe of royal life for decades, this feels like the final door slamming shut. She's reacting like someone who knows it's over, but still believes she can bargain her way back in. Andrew's response is different, but just as calculated. Where she's reactive, he's performative, and both are equally dangerous, because they are no longer playing by royal rules. They are playing to survive. So where does this leave a monarchy? In a place it's rarely been before, completely on the defensive against its own. The palace has weathered scandals before. Affairs, divorces, leaks. But this is different. This is two people who were once inside the gates, now trying to claw their way back through sympathy, manipulation, and shared leverage. And the institution knows it. That's why the current phase of this saga isn't about image. It's about extraction, quietly removing access, quietly severing connections, quietly preparing for the worst-case scenario, while praying it never comes. But the reality is this: the situation is not stable, not emotionally, not reputationally, and certainly not privately. The royal family's grip on the scandal may look tight from the outside, but internally, they are holding their breath, hoping the performance doesn't escalate, hoping the emotional unraveling stays private, hoping no one decides to take revenge on the institution that discarded them. Because if that happens, the secrets won't stay buried, the damage won't stay contained, and the royal bubble, already paper-thin, could finally burst in public. Right now, Buckingham Palace is holding its breath because the only thing more dangerous than a disgraced royal is a desperate one. Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson aren't just sidelined. They're adrift. And what makes this saga so volatile isn't the scandal itself. It's what happens when the royal family finally runs out of ways to manage it silently. The firm can remove titles, cut funding, limit visibility, and erase public ties. But what they can't do is control what happens when people feel discarded. And that's exactly where Andrew and Fergie are: bitter, panicked, and out of moves. Let's be clear, this situation has escalated way beyond reputational damage. This is strategic collapse. The monarchy is treating Andrew like a failed investment. They've stripped him of almost every royal connection that once propped up his public identity. Titles? Gone. Patronages? Gone. Security detail? Gone. And now, his living situation. At Royal Lodge is under direct threat. The man who once insisted he would step back with honor is now refusing to leave a house he no longer has a right to occupy. That resistance isn't noble, it's delusional. It's a last-ditch attempt to cling to status through proximity. If he can just stay in the house, he thinks maybe he still matters. But behind the scenes, pressure is mounting. The Crown Estate reportedly wants him out. King Charles reportedly wants him out. And the institution, it wants him invisible. But Andrew's not going quietly. He's countering the push with a carefully curated narrative: public remorse, emotional collapse, stage vulnerability. We've seen it. Those carefully captured Windsor rides where he looks weathered and hunched, as if sorrow itself is weighing him down. Experts are calling it out for what it likely is: a strategic performance. A man playing pitiful in the hopes that the palace will blink first. The problem? No one's blinking. Because the firm has shifted gears. This isn't about appearances anymore. This is about containment. Andrew's behavior, according to palace insiders, is no longer viewed as a scandal to repair. It's a threat to manage. And that's why the emotional displays, real or rehearsed, aren't being met with sympathy. They are being met with silence. And then there's Sarah. Sarah Ferguson, once dismissed as the eccentric ex-duchess who lingered just outside the royal circle, is now arguably the bigger risk. While Andrew is staging sorrow, Sarah is unraveling. Her emotional state had become a growing concern among those close to her, and not out of pity, but fear. Reports describe her as panicked, volatile, struggling to keep up appearances as the last of her royal adjacency disappears. Because that's the truth. Fergie's entire post-divorce identity has been rooted in still being around, still sharing a home with Andrew, still connected, still relevant. And now, she's watching it all slip away. Her continued closeness to Andrew once looked like loyalty, but under the current lens, it looks more like desperation, more like mutual protection. They are not just exes, they are co-conspirators in survival, tied together not by love, but by shared secrets, shared vulnerability, and that makes their alliance extremely risky for the monarchy. If Andrew loses Royal Lodge, Sarah likely goes with him. If his status vanishes entirely, so does hers, and that fear of being cut off completely, of becoming obsolete, has reportedly pushed her toward emotional extremes. And here's where it gets truly dangerous. When people feel like they have nothing left to lose, they talk. That's what the monarchy is guarding against. Not just scandal, but exposure. The royal family's response has evolved into quiet intervention. Not support, containment. They are not trying to save Andrew and Sarah. They are trying to minimize risk. That includes isolating them, framing their behavior as emotionally unstable, and slowly retracting the last of their privileges under the guise of concern. It's strategic suppression, understood clearly by those watching closely, but vague enough to fly under the radar for most. This approach works, until it doesn't. Because here's the thing. The closer Andrew and Sarah get to total exile, the more unpredictable their behavior becomes. Whether it's a rogue interview, a not-so-subtle leak, or a social media misstep, anything could tip this controlled implosion into a public crisis. And the firm knows it. They played this game before. Strategic distancing, ghosting scandal-ridden royals, moving on like nothing happened. But Andrew and Sarah are the first to truly resist that erasure. And that resistance is exactly what makes them so dangerous to the system they used to save. So now, it's a standoff. The palace continues applying pressure. Andrew clings to stone walls and legacy. Sarah clings to relevance. And between them lies a mountain of untold history the monarchy desperately hopes never sees daylight. What happens next depends on who cracks first. If you've been following the layers of this royal unraveling, hit like, drop a comment with your take, and make sure you're subscribed, because a final chapter in this saga isn't written yet, and something tells us it won't end quietly.